Hey guys, welcome back to another video from the Algarve. I'm sitting here in this beautiful, it's actually kind of spring weather today, which is lovely. So it was really exciting after a week of solid rain, and it's great to have it back. But now today, what I want to do is talk a little bit about the back roads of the Algarve, because you all know about the coastal areas and the hotels and those places. And these are the more little known places where you can actually find really good deals on property. And I'm going to follow up in a video all about ruins and how to find a ruin and go that route. You know, buy a ruin and then build a house on it, because there are lots of different legal issues there. So I want to make a whole video on that. But for now, this is an overview of some of the back roads between Faro and Portimão. All right, we're heading on a little road trip around the back streets of the Algarve, or the rural areas of the Algarve, which is quite fun, I think. Starting off with a beautiful little village called Querença, which every year they have a festival of chorizo, and it's fantastic. Go there, drink red wine, have chorizo. It's amazing. It really is good fun. So let me show you a little bit about Querença. You can find Querença 30 minutes north of Faro Airport and just 15 minutes north of Lule on the N396. It's a lovely little ride. Now Querença, as most of the Algarve villages do, it brews arbutus berry brandy, also known as aguardente madronho, which is like local firewater, and it's pretty wild. I don't really enjoy it myself, but I think a lot of people do. And they also produce a popular variety of chorizo, which is a sausage. Every year they have a Festa dos Chouriços. As you can see, Querença is a small village. Only 750 people live here. And, so introduce yourself when you arrive, because most people will know everybody else. Okay, so here's Querença perched on top of the hill. And the Manalva River flows over here, flows around here, and it flows 60% of the time throughout the year. So you'll be able to see that in winter, obviously. And it flows down into the Umbria Resort, actually, which you can see overlaid here on Google Earth. And this massive resort has been in development for 30 years, or they've been planning it for 30 years. But right now, it's actually almost finished, and construction is going crazy. And you can buy apartments and villas starting at 450,000 euros. So it's quite an upmarket resort, but a beautiful place with stunning golf course, and it looks really amazing. It looks really amazing. If you like that kind of thing, you like the resort thing. But if you don't, if you want to go and live in a beautiful traditional village like Querença, well then, go to Querença. Look for traditional food on the local restaurants around. There's a thing called migas, which is basically a bread-based dish, and also xarém, which is a cornflower mash. It's a type of cornflower mash. So look out for those. They're really quite interesting, and it's always nice to eat local. All right, let's move on. All right, we're coming up on Salir after having done Querença. That's quite fun. It's in the next little village on our way through the back streets of the Algarve. This is fun. All right, see you in Salir. Alright, so as you can see, the castle of Salir, and Salir itself, is right smack bang in the center of the Algarve. It doesn't take that long to get there. Let's see. So it's about 36 minutes That's pretty precise. It's about 30, like half an hour to get to the airport. And from there, basically, so you go up through Lolé and then you head straight up to Salir. Now, so as far as location goes, it's pretty, well, it's not that accessible, but the N124, you can see driving along here, N124 links you with São Bartolomé de Messins, which again links you to the north-south highway, which is the A2, or the IC. Well, the IC1 is the old one, and the A2 or the E1 is the new one that goes all the way to Lisbon. And then across here, the A22, it's quite difficult to get there. So, but you also have to go ahead across. So Salir is kind of like in the middle of nowhere. It's not as bad as Alentejo, but it's not super accessible. But that's probably what you want when you want to go to Salir. I mean, it doesn't take you long to get down to Lolé or to Almancil. Now, historically, Salir, because of its centrality, it was actually a staging point for the Christians to fight back against the Moors. So you can see, like I just showed you on the other map, it's really well placed centrally. So what they'd do is they'd meet all their forces there and amass them, and then they'd start charging out and attacking the Moors. So the castle in Salir was actually built in the 12th century by the Moors as a part of the network of the Almohad castles. It was designed to protect the local farmers from attack by Moravian Christians. And then when it was conquered in 1189 by King Sancho I of Portugal, so as I said, Salir became the meeting point for all the forces to then turn the tide and attack the Moors. So it's obviously, it switched sides. It was a very pivotal strategic castle that played a large role as the Christians routing the Moors from Portugal and the reconquering of Portugal. Over the years, the castle was destroyed by fire, rebuilt, destroyed by fire again, and then rebuilt again. And then eventually it fell into ruin in I think it was about the 16th centuries. But you can see when we look at it, like Salir is divided, it's on two hilltops really. Okay, so there's the church over on this hilltop and the castle all the way around this hilltop. And I walked up here, around here with this video here, and then around here, and you can sit over here on the castle wall and just look out at Rocha de Pena, which is over there. Now that we'll get to in a second, which is an amazing place. But also there's another thing about the castle is this area here is an interpretive museum. So it's all what they've found. And they started, I think, in 1987 to dig up the castle and do some archaeological digs and find out all they could about all this history that I just told you about. So that is all contained in the center here, and you can find out tons of information there. So if you're a budding historian, head over to Salir and you'll find out all about it. I have a friend who lives in Salir, and he was telling me, I was actually hoping to try and get him on video, but because of the lockdown, it's been real difficult. But he was telling me that there's about 5,000 people in Salir, and it's an area, it's actually the freguesia with the biggest area in the whole country, I think, 200 square kilometers. So if you don't know what a junta de freguesia is, it's the way of geographically allocating land in Portugal. So we have a distrito, which is like a district of Faro, that's actually also known as the Algarve, so that's the whole thing. And then we go down into conselhos or councils, and this particular council that Salir is in is Lolé. Okay, and then each council is divided up into freguesias, and you have the Junta de Freguesia, which controls the freguesia. And as I said, this freguesia of Salir is one of the biggest in the country. But now, also my friend said lots of dry fruits are planted here. And I would imagine that means, what he means is that fruits are planted for drying, like raisins and things like that, I would imagine, but I don't know. And the Festa de Espiga is on the 1st of May. It's one of the best in the Algarve. Okay, and if you're wondering what Espiga is, and that's, it's just corn or wheat. Okay, so they have a wheat festival every single year. Exciting stuff, man. And these festivals are actually really fun to go and check out. I was talking a little bit about Querença's Chorizo Festival. That's great fun. I've never been to the Festa de Espiga, but I think I will try and do it as soon as we can, as soon as this lockdown is lifted. Okay, so shops in Salir, there's not a huge selection, but if you drive in, there's a place called Jaffa's, which is the supermarket just over here. Or it's pretty more like a mini market. The next closest place to go and get all your massive shopping done is probably in Lolé, which is down here where you've got continents. You've got two continents, you've got Pingo you've got Lidl, you've got everything like that. Okay, so Salir is a little bit challenging there. As far as schooling goes, there is actually rather a big school, the Escola Básica, which I imagine would take, because it's so big, it's this school over here, would go from 1st to the 9th grade. So that's age 6 all the way up to 14. correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys, in the comments. I really would, because I couldn't find any more information about that. But it's quite a large looking school, and it looks pretty new. All those buildings are all switched on and stuff. So you can see here in Google Earth that it's rather a large school with all these classrooms, and they've got a football court, as it were. So it's looked like a tarmac football court. But yeah, it's enough. It's enough to get educated, which is great for all the surrounding students. And that's another thing, as I mentioned, 5,000 people in the freguesia, but I think there's actually 2,700 people in the town of Salir, according to the 2011 census. In Salir, there's one farmacia, or chemist, or drugstore, and you can see it pointed over here. So it's right in the middle of the old town, up on the hill with the church. And if you just come down a little bit southwest, you'll see this is actually the Centre Saúde, or it's called Extensão de Saúde. So it means it's a little bit smaller than a normal centre, a health centre, but it's a government hospital basically, but government clinic. You can see Extensão de Saúde de Salir. And then just behind that is the police station, which is right over here. So that backs onto the police station. So that's all there is really for Salir. If you want to find any property around Salir, I think the best thing to do is find a piece of land with a ruin on it. But I'm going to go into land and ruins in the next video, all about it. I'll give you some examples and things like that, because I think that's one of a really good way to get a good deal in the Algarve, is to try and find that. All right, let's move on to Rocha de Pena. Rocha de Pena's sheer north face is much shadier and wetter, and it's formed by acidic shale bedrock. There you'll find species like the bay laurel, the cork oak, the poplar-leaved rock rose, and the exuberant Portuguese heath. This results in a stark contrast to the always sunny and dry south face, whose soil is strongly alkaline due to the presence of very hard limestone bedrock. And finally, there's the peculiarly fertile terra rossa, or red earth, higher plateau, an arid place with no shadows and no water, despite being subjected to strong and humid winter winds. Now that's all from walkalgarve.com, which is a fantastic website. It's got some really great walks on it, and I'd suggest you check it out, because it's really good. It's really good. I've used it a lot. We walk all over Rocha de Pena. It's fantastic walking and hiking. You could probably bike there if you had the power to get up there, but there's also rock climbing on the front face. So Rocha de Pena is actually a natural reserve as well, so they limit the amount of, well, actually you're not allowed to hunt javeli or wild boar there, so it's kind of safe on Thursdays and Sundays. But what the local hunters tend to do is trap them, which they're not allowed to do. So there's a massive abundance, and if you walk there, you'll see evidence all over the place of wild boars. How am I going to get out of here? That's a good question. And that's really a question that I think I've asked myself many a time in Portuguese little back streets. So just make sure you don't take a big truck in there. Let's talk a little bit about Alte, where we're heading off to now. Alte is, let's talk about the history of Alte. Because one of Alte's most famous sons was Cândido Guerreiro, a renowned Portuguese poet who was born in 1871 and was schooled in law. He became the mayor of Lule and Faro, which is quite an achievement. But obviously he was most well known for his poetry. And you'll see a poem of his right next door to the fontes in Alte. The most prominent and historical building in Alte is the Church of Our Lady of Assumption, which was originally built in the 13th century and it was later rebuilt in early 16th century. But now, strangely enough, Alte was featured in a book by James A. Michener entitled The Drifters. There's a link below in the description if you want to buy it from Amazon, and you can buy a Kindle version or whatever you want. But there's a chapter when the group of characters descend on the village of Alte, and one of them kisses a local girl, upsetting the entire village. Because the whole book seems to be about this group of characters who cruise around between Spain and Portugal and Morocco and I think Mozambique. So, Alte's a beautiful little town, and it's probably one of the most authentic towns and most well renovated towns in the whole of the Algarve. All right, let's just take a step back and I'll show you my route that I'm actually taking. So this is the route, the blue route here that I was driving from Querença to Salir to Alte and back down to Paderna. So these are all sort of back roads of of the Algarve. And now Alt is what it's really well known for is its two fonts, okay, and those two fonts are actually springs. It's basically a river that runs through Alt, and they've opened it up into sort of a canal system. It's a very small canal system, but it's a really wonderful place to sit around and have coffee and tea or a picnic. And every year they have a big BTT, which is also the Portuguese version, Bicicleta Todo Terreno, for mountain biking. So they have a massive mountain biking event there every year. And then if you go just a little bit further south of Alt, right on the border, right on the village outskirts, there's a spectacular waterfall that may not work right in the middle of summer, but it's generally working. Obviously, it's working now in the middle of winter, and it's this nice big grass patch there where you can also have a picnic. So it's a great day out to go. And there's some lovely little restaurants in Alt where you can enjoy it. And as I said before, it's a very traditional village, and it's been well restored. So it's like pure Algarve, you know what I mean? That's where you'll get to see the real Algarve. All right, let's move on to Paderne. So Paderne is a village and a parish, freguesia, in the municipality or a conselho of Albufeira. Now 3,300 people lived in the area in 2011, which is when the last census was taking place. And that's something I always struggle with, is that the populations are all related to the areas around them and not the actual villages themselves. But anyway, it gives you an indication of the size. Now, it's 12 kilometers north of Albufeira, so it's not too far out. And there are lots of small farms and ruins and houses all around the place. So it's not just in the village that you could buy a house, but also around in the surrounding areas. But historically, Paderne was used to mine copper as far back as Phoenician times. And there's still some caves around. Let me show you where these caves are. There's a thing called an Escarpão cave. And there's a bit of drama a few years back when rubble from the marina in Albufeira was dumped at the mouth of this cave and blocked it up. So everyone got up in arms about that, which is really a good thing to get up in arms about. It's not cool at all, guys. Okay, so the quick history is that King Sancho I, he arrived and he took, let me just show you the Paderna castle, which is a little bit further north. So Paderna castle over here, and you'll see that when you drive along the A22 highway, you'll see it on your right hand side. It's really cool. You should go and check it out, actually. But King Sancho arrived, and this was originally built by the Moors in the 1300s, and he came and he took that castle, and then the Moors took it back, and then some knights from the Order of St. James came to take it back in 1248. So then they secured that for the Christians. Now, it's a critical garrison, as they all are, that's why they're created, but it secures the path to the sea. And I would imagine that that's good for resupply of the forces by ocean. But I'm not 100% sure. But now and also there's an interesting Roman bridge which is just down here. You can see over here a Roman bridge just south of that. So that's enabled them to cross the Ribeira da Quatera, which is this river as it's known. It doesn't flow all the time, but it flows most of the time. Now this whole route here is a walking hike, and I found immense amounts of really amazing information on my favorite hiking site called walkalgarve.com. So please check it out. I'll put a little link in the description amongst all the other links in the description, and you can go and find it. And they've got amazing information there, all about the birds and the water and the geology and everything. So if you're interested in the area, check that out. Okay, so now, but sadly, Paderne declined in importance over the years after the Portuguese took over. And also in 1755, when the earthquake damaged the castle a lot, then that contributed to its decline. But it's a lovely area, fascinating area, and rich in archaeological and historical significance. Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching again, and I've got tons more videos lined up. I'll share that with you on my Instagram and maybe on the community thread thing over here. All these ideas that I've got, but you know what? You don't want to sort of jinx them because they've got such great ideas. Who knows if they're going to happen? But what I'm trying to say is that I'm really pumped and excited about this YouTube channel, and it's wonderful to see. And it's mainly thanks to you guys. So thank you so much for commenting and liking and all that, because it really helps, because otherwise you're making videos in a vacuum and no one's appreciating it. Because my main goal is for you to help you. I want to help you guys. So Yeah, I'll talk about that more in another video there. Okay. Anyway, have a fantastic weekend and we'll see you later. Ciao.